Something is happening right now, and if you've been paying attention, you can feel it. Strange lights, missing people, government officials changing the way they talk about it. It's like the world is being prepared to believe something. The question is, what? Okay, cue the intro. Humanity has always entertained the idea of life elsewhere in the universe. When I was a kid, maybe 6 or 7 years old, Star Wars was all the rage. I can remember being at my cousin's house one night. We were outside looking up at the stars. My aunt was sitting nearby, and she said, "Star Wars is up there somewhere." Well, for two little kids to hear that, I'm sure our first thought was, "It's true, it's true." Oh, the innocent imaginations of children. But here's the thing, I'm not that innocent kid anymore, and I've come to believe that the likelihood of life out there somewhere is pretty low. Now, the Bible doesn't directly address it one way or the other, but I do believe it gives us enough to draw a conclusion. This earth was clearly created and designed to support life, and the universe itself seems to be designed to support life. Right here. Not to mention the vast distances between planets, stars, and galaxies. The laws of physics as we understand them would make interstellar, especially intergalactic travel extremely unlikely. So that raises a question. Where are these so-called space brothers coming from? Because I don't think they're traveling here from another galaxy. I lean in a different direction. Interdimensional, something spiritual, something deceptive, something that I believe the Bible has already warned us about. And that brings us right into today's conversation. Hello boys and girls, Chaplain Scott Savell here, and welcome to another prophecy update on the Fight for Joy podcast. Today we're looking at one of the 10 prophetic trends I track regularly, what I like to call additional signs in general. And today's additional sign is deception. Not subtle, not isolated, but increasing. Deception in the form of what many are calling high strangeness. Now, what do I mean by high strangeness? It's a term people use to describe events or experiences that don't fit neatly into any normal category. Things that seem real, but don't behave like anything we understand. Moments where the usual explanations, natural, scientific, even psychological, just don't hold up. It can include strange lights in the sky, unexplained encounters, patterns that repeat across different people and places, things that leave you saying, "I don't have a category for that." And here's what makes it even more interesting. This isn't just something out there in the news. Throughout my life, I've had my own encounters, my own experiences that could only be described as high strangeness. Now, I don't talk about those very often, and I'm not going to talk about them today. But I will say this, when you've experienced something like that for yourself, it changes the way you look at everything else. Now, with that in mind, let's take a look at what's happening in the news. Because when you start putting these pieces together, the increase in sightings, the shift in language, the growing openness at even the highest levels, I have to be honest with you, I just can't shake the sense that somebody or something is up to something. That there is a kind of preparation happening. Almost like the world is being conditioned, gradually, subtly, getting us ready for something, maybe even a kind of disclosure. And that raises a bigger question, because if you take the Bible seriously, if you believe what Scripture says about what's coming, then you have to ask, how does the world explain something like the rapture? How do you explain millions of people suddenly gone? And beyond that, how does one man, the man the Bible calls the Antichrist, bring the whole world onto the same page? because that's not a small thing. That requires a unifying explanation, a shared narrative, something that the world is already prepared to accept. And I can't help but wonder if what we're seeing right now, the rise in so-called high strangeness, this normalization of the unexplained, isn't laying the groundwork for exactly that. Here are just a few things in the news lately that, I'll be honest, give me pause. For starters, and I talked about this in a previous prophecy alert, when it comes to UFOs or UAPs, The Guardian is reporting that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance recently suggested that what people are calling aliens may not be extraterrestrial at all, but could actually be demonic in nature. Now just think about that for a second. That kind of language used to be fringe. Now it's being discussed openly at the highest levels of government. And then you've got something else that's a little harder to ignore. The New York Post is reporting on the disappearance of a retired Air Force general, a man with deep ties to advanced aerospace research and programs connected to UAP investigations. According to reports, he vanished in a way that appears intentional, almost untraceable, left behind his phone, his watch, his vehicles. And that's not the only case being talked about. There are multiple reports circulating about scientists, researchers, individuals connected to places like NASA and Los Alamos who have either gone missing or turned up dead under unusual circumstances. Now, are all of these connected? We don't know, but I will say this. When you start seeing patterns, especially around highly sensitive fields like aerospace, nuclear research, and UAP programs, it should at least make you stop and think. And then alongside all of that, you've got this growing push towards what people are calling disclosure. The idea that governments may eventually reveal that we are not alone, and that there is some form of non-human intelligence interacting with us. And it's not just government and politics. Culture is moving in that direction too. Space.com is reporting on a new Steven Spielberg film coming out this summer called Disclosure Day. And the whole premise of the film is centered around a global revelation, contact, and humanity trying to process it all. It's like everywhere you look, the same theme keeps showing up. Almost like people are being prepared for something, like a narrative is being built ahead of time. Now I'll put a link to that trailer in the description below so that you can check it out for yourself. But when you step back and look at all of this together, government voices, missing individuals, tied to sensitive programs, media, entertainment, all moving in a similar direction, again, I'm not saying all this is coordinated, but I am saying this. It feels like the world is being conditioned to accept a certain explanation. So how are we to think about all this? Well, the Bible actually gives us a framework. 1 John chapter 4 verse 1 says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God." In other words, not everything that presents itself as real or even supernatural is from God. We are called to discern. And then listen to this. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 9 through 11. "The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing. Therefore God sends them a strong delusion, so that they may believe what is false." Did you catch that? False signs, false wonders, deception. Not just random, but powerful, convincing, and global. So when I look at everything we've talked about, the rise in so-called high strangeness, the shift in language at the highest levels, the disappearances, the push towards disclosure, I don't see random. I see the conditions being set for deception on a massive scale. Now let me be clear. Not everything is supernatural and not everything is demonic, but not everything is explainable either. And for that small percentage, that 1% that defies explanation, we need to be asking the right question. Not just what is it, but where is it coming from? And ultimately, are we grounded enough in the truth to recognize deception when we see it? Because here's the reality. If the world is being prepared to believe a lie, then the people of God need to be rooted in the truth. In fact, the best way to protect yourself is through the person and work of Jesus Christ. Make sure your faith and your trust rest fully and completely in Him. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep fighting for joy and keep looking up. God bless.